Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, welcome everyone to today's yoga practice with me, Chance. Very glad you're here at the Virtual Y. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for checking out this video library. For today's yoga practice, I want to just move a lot. We're going to be moving very mindfully, very slowly, but through this practice, it's very centering, it's very grounding, to notice the details, to notice what's taking place, what's in between the A and the B, what's in between what we already know, what we're already aware of, and what we can find when we just slow down. So let's sit up tall, relax our shoulders, and take a big deep breath just to feel how much space you can find in your lungs. And as you breathe all the way out, take another deep inhale and hold it at the top for about 5 seconds. As you breathe out, go as slowly as you can. Notice what sensations, what feelings, what pressures you notice. Next, we're going to root down through each side of the seat equally and sit up tall. As we relax the shoulders away from the ears, let the breath rise and fall smoothly, largely, and try to fill the bottom of the lungs first. So this might feel like you're filling the belly with breath first, and then fill all the way up to the tops of the collarbones. Or maybe all the way up to the head, it might feel like. So we're breathing from the bottom of the lungs, filling to the top of the lungs, and then breathing out slowly with control. Notice wherever you feel stiffness or resistance. And notice wherever you feel release or relief or lightness. Usually every inhale we find a little space, a little heaviness, a little tightness. And every exhale we feel a little of that tightness and resistance leave. So we're going to keep on breathing like this the entire practice. Full breaths from the bottom of the belly to the top of the lungs. Full slow exhales to feel whatever tension we found leaving or dissolving or evaporating a little bit. Next, we're going to use the bandhas. The bandhas are internal locks that are going to hold our core, our deepest connections in tightly. So the first lock is like a Kegel lift called the root lock or the Mula Bandha. And when we do this, we pull up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom. We pull up and in from our bottom up until we feel like it's working our low back. It's a very important group of muscles that holds the pelvis onto the spine, and by doing so we really awaken and kind of notice that there might be a lot of tension or a lot of weakness in these muscles. After you lift those muscles, we want to release those muscles, so it's a pumping action. We're squeezing up and in from the bottom and releasing very smoothly. One other lock we're going to be using is the Uddiyana Bandha, or the upward flying lock, and we activate this by pulling the belly button in toward the spine. So when you suck your belly in and scoop upward until you feel some activation in the mid to low back, that's how you know it's working. And once you lift that lock all the way, you also release that lock smoothly, mindfully. And I'll put those two together. The pelvic floor squeezes up and in, the belly button squeezes in and up. Notice what this does to our back. Notice these groups of muscles that might feel a little weak or tight or stiff, and then we release those muscles. And just like the breath, when we lift, we might feel where there's tension or tightness, just like when we breathe in. And when we release those muscles, we might feel a little of that tension or tightness evaporate, dissolve, or move on its way. Next, let's make our way to a tabletop position. We're going to be breathing and using the bandhas throughout the rest of the practice. So squeeze the hands into the ground. Feel the hands activate, the forearms activate. Roll the shoulders outward, point the creases of the elbows forward, the points of the elbows backward. And we're going to take some cat-cow breaths. On the inhales, lower the belly. Lift the chest, lift the chin. On the exhales, round through the spine. Traction the hands and knees toward an imaginary point on the ground that's directly beneath your belly button. So if you're squeezing into the ground and toward this imaginary point beneath your belly button, you're going to feel a lot of activation in your spine, in your shoulders, in your hands, even your knees and feet, all working. So now when you breathe all the way in and all the way out, you're really going to feel where you might have been holding some tension. So a cat pose is the opposite of a cow pose, where you tuck your tailbone, tuck your chin, hollow out your chest, but still keep tractioning those hands and knees toward that center point. As you're breathing in, you can pull in on those bandhas. Maybe as you're breathing out, you can release those bandhas. Or the opposite. When you're breathing in, you can release the bandhas. And when you're breathing out, then you can lift the pelvic floor and the belly button. But now let's transition. On your inhales, do a cow pose. Kind of arch the back, stretch the front line of the body. On your exhales, do a cat pose. As you notice, there's a lot to pay attention to in these simple movements when you're using the breath and the bandhas and alternating between the poses. So if you ever feel overwhelmed or you feel like you're judging yourself for doing it wrong, forget all that. All of these directions and cues are optional. Stuff that you can pay attention to instead of just letting your mind wander. Because we're practicing being very focused on the details of the here and now. Maybe each cycle of breath or transition between each pose, you notice a little bit more. And you can observe how these subtle movements change what's going on in your body. Big toes to touch, knees wide on the mat. We're going to take extended child's pose. Walk the hands forward. Squeeze the hands into the mat. Externally rotate the shoulders. Push those forearms and elbows into the ground. Bring the knees good and wide so you're really stretching those hips. Point your chest toward the ground. Pull your arms back towards you as you're gripping the ground to stretch the shoulders, armpits. Maybe you can tuck your chin, press your forehead to the ground. Maybe you can use those bandhas. And just be here. Notice the details when you get the breath and the bandhas and your attention all working together. Next, we'll press back to a downward facing dog. Squeeze the hands into the mat. Press the heart back toward the thighs, send the hips high. Externally rotate the shoulders, meaning point the points of the elbows toward the ground. Point the top of the head toward the ground. And really find this stretch in all these different places in your body. Use the breath. See where the pose really reveals and teaches and works, stretches and strengthens. You can always take a tabletop instead or extended child's pose here. If down dog is too intense, don't overdo anything. The breath and the bandhas are enough to pay attention to, so if you ever feel overwhelmed, that's all you got to do. It's the breath and the bandhas. Whatever pose feels good for you. Let's walk the feet up to the wrists. Fold forward for Ragdoll pose. Nice bend in the knees. Deep, full breaths. Relax the shoulders, the jaw, the face. See what's there. On your next inhale, we'll slowly rise to stand. Shoulders and head are the last to come up. Oh, and at the top, shrug those shoulders up, back, and down. Very smoothly, thoughtfully. Breath, bandhas, attention. That's what we're working on. Those are the key points of the practice. We'll soften the soles of the feet. And then we're going to rise up onto the toes, lifting the heels, only to lower back down. We'll do that again on your inhale. Rise up onto the toes. And exhale, lower down. Do it one more time just to feel the feet working, warming up, the legs, and we'll lower down. Now we want to soften the arches of our feet to get more of the arches of our feet onto the ground. Distribute that weight very equally around the feet, the four corners of each foot. And then we'll find a slight bend in the knees. So the weight is not on the bones stacked, but rather on the spring of the muscles. Traction the feet towards each other. Roll the tailbone under and lengthen the low back by reaching up tall through the crown of the head. Palms point forward. This externally rotates our shoulders. We don't want our shoulders drawn way back and our chest poking way out. Just very neutral, so our shoulders are right in line with our spine, which might take a little drawing back, but not anything extreme. Let's take some big breaths here, just noticing how the torso feels. Where does it feel like a lot of work? Traction the feet towards each other so the inner lines of the legs are engaged. See how that shows up in the low back. See how reaching vertically through the crown of the head allows more space. Let every deep breath find whatever tension you've been holding. Let every exhale invite that tension to leave. On your next inhale, we'll sweep the arms high, active through the fingertips. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Deep, full breaths. Tailbone rolled under. Now from here, we're just going to bounce a little bit with the knees. This will feel like a lot of work in the arms and shoulders after a few more bounces. We're going to stay here for about a minute. If at any time you need to lower your arms, go ahead. But instead, if it's just a little uncomfortable, try to put all of your attention into where it's uncomfortable and see if you can relax a little bit. So we're externally rotating the shoulders. This means the palms are kind of pointing behind us. But we're relaxing the shoulders away from the ears so that the bouncing might reveal where you've been holding some tension in your neck or around your heart. Keep the breath flowing big and expansively. Keep the shoulders softening. About halfway there, notice if there's any tightness, any stiffness, any tingling or numbness in the hands. We're just bouncing in the knees, allowing gravity to drain out our arms, and allowing the work, the heat, the exertion to relax our shoulders and our spine as well. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Last one. And on your exhale, we'll stand still and fold forward. Let's remain here for a few breaths. Feel wherever there's shoulder tension or discomfort and try to breathe into that space. Your knees can be as bent or as straight as you like, but try to find a length across the front of your belly. Big, full breaths. Try to breathe all the way to the bottom of the lungs first, then to the upper lungs. You might notice pressure in your face, in your neck, or around your heart. And invite that to leave just by letting it go. On your next inhale, we'll take a halfway lift. Flat back, long spine, traction the knees towards each other, traction the feet towards each other. And the knees are rolling inward. We're kind of, opening, or rather closing the hips, so internally rotating those hips. We don't want our back to be slumped or slouched here. We really want to reach the crown of the head as in front of the tailbone as we can get it. Draw the shoulders in front of the ears. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. And pull in on the pelvic floor and belly button. Just see what happens when you hug in all of those organs. Does it feel like a lot of work? Does it reveal a lot of space or weakness or tightness? And on your next exhale, we'll fold forward. Once again, bending the knees as much as feels good. On your inhale, we're going to sweep the arms all the way high, but bend the knees as you rise, so you rise like a wave. And on your exhale, bring hands to heart center. Inhale, sweep the arms high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back, long spine, knees roll inward, bandhas in. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep the arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's repeat that one more time. Inhale, sweep the arms high. Exhale, fold, lead with the heart, length across the front of the belly. Inhale, halfway lift, long spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep arms high. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, chair pose. For chair pose, we're going to sit deep, like you're sitting into a chair. Send your hips back, lift your chest high. Roll the knees towards each other. Find length in the low back. Space across the front of the belly, across the front of the hips. Relax your shoulders. Find a single point of focus with your eyes and really feel where that heat or discomfort might build across the thighs. Take one more inhale here. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step your left foot back for a low lunge. Inhale, lift your chest, find a little stretch across the front of the hip. This might be really deep. Your leg might only be back this far. That's totally fine. You have to find how far back feels comfortably stretched, not uncomfortably. A little discomfort is okay, but extreme discomfort, we do not want that in this practice. On your next inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, step that left foot forward for a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, long spine. Exhale, step the right foot back for a low lunge. Inhale, lift the chest. You can breathe here, use the bandhas. Remember, your feet might be a lot closer together than mine. You have to find that comfortable low lunge. Lengthen your low back. Use the bandhas. Find a depth in the breath. One more inhale here. Lift the chest. And exhale. Step to a forward fold. We'll bend the knees. Come down to a crouch and curl. Tuck the knees. Tuck the chin. Bring the forehead toward the knees. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen the spine. Big, deep breaths. And have a seat. We're going to lower right on down to our back for a spine strengthener. Bring the soles of the feet in close to the seat. Hip width distance apart. Lift the hips up off the mat. Squeeze the palms together. Roll the knees towards each other. Pull in on the pelvic floor. Breathe into the belly. Pull the heart toward the chin. Gently lower your hips down to the ground. Rock your knees from side to side. We'll bring the feet up into the air. Let your legs drain out here. Press your shoulder blades into the ground. You can press your arms into the ground too. Pull your shoulders away from your ears. Maybe tuck your chin. Big, deep breaths. Allow your spine to lengthen while being gripped on the ground and being stretched by your breath. Find a sense of okayness, of contentment, of calm within the body. If the mind seems busy, chaotic, distracted, stressed, just observe that and see if you can't let it go, breath by breath. We don't need to be thinking much right now. Instead, we just need to observe how we are, how we're feeling. We don't need to be judging it, perpetuating it, duplicating it, or going through the routine thoughts and stories. We can let it all go for now to just be all the way here. Hug both knees into the chest. Grip the spine onto the ground. Breathe the full capacity of the lungs all the way in and all the way out. We'll bring the knees over to the left, right hand out to the right for a twist. Right shoulder blade to the mat, chin toward the right hand. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Big, deep breaths. You can bring the knees over to the right, left hand out to the left. Final Shavasana, lay flat on your back. Arms wide, legs wide. Once again, notice whatever you notice when you look inward. Is it soreness or stiffness or discomfort in the muscles? Is it a tingle, a lightness, a relaxation, a calm? Is it a busy mind that's just revved up, trying to solve problems and jumping from one thing to another? It doesn't necessarily matter what we find, because the art of inquiring, the art of observing, the art of looking is what we're practicing. Because when we get used to looking, then we can get very realistic about what kind of attention or care or, redirection we really need in life, in any aspect of our life. Because mindfulness is your relationship to yourself. And if there's issues with that, there's going to be issues in every aspect of your life that could just, be easier or be better, whatever better means. If you have an easier, more whole, honest, informed relationship with yourself, you become a much more impactful, aligned, and easy person to be. You can hug your knees into your chest. Squeeze yourself in tight. Roll down onto your right side. And return to a comfortable seated position. Namaste. Thanks for spending a little time today. I'll be right back with a mindfulness practice. And be kind to yourself this week. Move slowly any chance that you get. Be still more often, because the revved up mind, the momentum of our busy lives defeats us more often than it helps us. So just find that balance, some stillness, some quiet, some slowness. Thanks.